In chapter 4, we will now talk about the custom-based marketing matrix based on transactional data, which comes from customer. Retention rate is the numbers of customers in one cohort buying in the actual time period divided by the number of customers in cohort buying in the precedent time period. So T minus 1. What is a cohort? A cohort is nothing else than a group of customers. So to give you an example, you have a database, for example, of let's say 100,000 customers who bought in T minus 1, so in the last period, for example, in 2019. And you have in 2020, so in the actual time period, you have 90,000 customers in the database who continue to buy. This means that you have a retention rate of 90,000 divided by 100,000. So your retention rate would be 90%. So you retain 90% of your customers from one time period to another one. So the higher, the more the retention rate goes to 100%, the higher the loyalty of your customers. On the other hand, you can calculate then the defection rate, which is the opposite. So 100 minus the retention rate. So in my example, if you have a retention rate of 90%, 100 minus 90, you have a defection rate of 10%. And so this means that 10% of your customers churn. The defection rate can also be called churn rate. C-H-U-R-N. Churn rate. So defection rate is the same like churn rate. Practitioners are more rather calling it churn rate. So it's the opposite side of the retention rate, and it means that the higher or the lower the churn rate, the higher the retention rate, and it's an indicator about loyalty. It is important because if you see that your churn rate increases or your retention rate decreases from one period to other periods, this means that you have to do loyalty marketing. Because if you never can avoid to have churn, because customers move to other cities, to other countries, customers lose their needs. For example, when you buy baby diapers, after 3 or 4 years, clearly there's a churn, because once the baby don't need any more diapers, the household will churn and don't buy diapers anymore. And there are natural death, there are competitors, so customers switch competitors, so you cannot avoid churn. But on the other hand, if your churn rate is very high, so higher than, for example, 10 to 15%, then it's a problem, because you're losing, like in a bucket is losing water, you're losing your customers. And then it's important to understand why you're losing customers. Is it because better competitors' offerings, and so you have to do a benchmark? Is it because your prices are too high? Is it because customers are dissatisfied? Then it makes sense, and then it makes sense to look at your satisfaction and service in order to see if your defection is related to customer dissatisfaction or to better competitors' offers. Where does this information comes from? From your internal customer database. So you know exactly, you can compare exactly your database in terms of numbers from 1 year to, or one period to another one, because you can also calculate churn by month, for example. So you can see every month how many customers, if you come back to this framework, how many customers are here on the right side, which means customers who don't buy anymore. How do you consider a customer as being churned or defected? Yeah, in the lost for good sector, it's easy because you know that the contract is finished. So you can be sure that customer, if he did not enroll anymore into your contract, that the customer has churned or defected. So you can easily find the churn rate or defection rate. On the other hand, in the grocery, you calculate the churn rate with probabilistic models. So if, and therefore you take, for example, the interpurchase time and purchase frequency. So you take customer activity indicators and you will calculate a probability according to inter-purchase time and purchase frequencies and purchase amount if the customer is still active. So the shorter the inter-purchase time, the higher the purchase frequencies, the higher the amount, the higher will be the probability that the customer will still be active. So it is an indicator that the customer is an active one, retained. The lower or the longer the inter-purchase time, the lower the frequencies, the lower the purchase amount, the higher will be the churn or defection probability. So it is. It means that the probability is not. It has to be calculated. The churn is not known, or the defection is not known. You have to calculate it by probabilistic or statistical. A cohort is nothing else than a segment or a group. And when we talk about customer cohorts, it means that we have cohorts of customers of a given time period. For example, we have a cohort of customers 2019, 18, 17. We have the cohort of customers of 2020. So it's a group of customers relating to a given period. We have to retain retention. It's nothing else like loyalty. Defection, it is also called churn rate. And average inter-purchase time is the time a customer generally takes to do between two successive purchases.